Hi. Today I am going to teach you about bishop versus pawn endings. Most of bishop versus pawn endings ends up with draws because if the bishop able to sacrifice against the pawn or bishop able to cut the pawn, the game will be end up with a draw because bishop and king cannot be make a mate. Even though there is a bishop and king cannot make a mate, so that once the bishop able to cut the opponent's pawn by sacrificing or somehow the game will be declared as a draw. You may remember that no checkmating position can occur by any possible series of legal moves. Even with most unskilled moves, a game is immediately declared as draw. There are only three examples of this again king and king and bishop against king and king and knight against king. In these situations, there's actually no need to offer or claim a draw. The game has actually already finished. Okay, let's come to the first position. The only bishop versus pawn positions of interest are those where the bishop has trouble preventing the pawn from queening. Let's see the first diagram. Okay, when it comes to the bishop and bishop versus pawn endings, the only interest comes when the bishop is unable to block the pawn. In this diagram, bishop is unfortunately placed, and even though the pawn is 3 squares from queening, black cannot do anything to prevent this happening. See, the only possible black has to reach the h1a diagonal in order to prevent the pawn promoting the queen, so that black has to come into this way or by playing a2 and can try to come d5 square. But the thing is, white's king is placed in a nice place so that he can easily come into the d4 square and protect the both e4 square and d5 square. So bishop have to find any other move to reach the long diagonal in order to prevent the pawn promoting. Is it possible to come to the long diagonal within 3 moves? Here, bishop cannot come to the e4 square, so that after a6, bishop can try to come a2. If white plays a7, bishop can come to the d5 square and attack to the a8 square, pawn is prevented. So after bishop a2, white is not pushing the a7 because he have to cover the d5 square by playing king d5. So that king d4. Here black plays king d4. White cannot come to the long diagonal. Even though bishop b1 and he cannot come to the bishop e4 line. So only option he can try bishop b3 and let's play as arrows. Bishop b3, bishop d1 and bishop f4. After bishop b3, pawn plays within one move, white cannot reach to the light square long diagonal, so that bishop cannot block the pawn promoting. Okay, we will move into the next position. Let's see this position. Okay, the bishop's target should be to light square long diagonal h1 to a8 diagonal within 3 moves. White plays a6. Okay, what are the possible moves to reach light square long diagonal? Bishop simply e4. It's impossible because the e4 is already attacked by d4 king. So the other possible move is bishop a4 and coming to the c6 square. It cost only 2 moves, and the other possible or bishop d1 and bishop f3. That's also costing only 2 moves. Okay, first bishop a4. White cannot play simply a7 because black can reach to the c6 square, so that king is attacking to the c6 square. So black is coming to the d1 and there are no way to cover the f3 square. So black can easily come into the long diagonal, light square long diagonal, then pawn won't be able to promote the queen. Okay, we'll move into this position. Just forget about the kings. I just placed the kings in order to set up the position in chess base. Without kings, we won't be able to set up the positions. What I wanted to say is, if the bishop can cover common diagonal for the pawns, he can block the pawns by its own. When there is a disconnected pawns, even though connected pawns, bishop can come into a common diagonal, then pawn won't be able to promote. When it comes to this kind of positions, if bishop cannot cover the pawns by common diagonal, bishop won't be able to block the both pawns. Black can simply sacrifice one pawn and find a way to promote the queen. Here we'll see these two squares to attack. But the thing is here, black has 3 moves to promoting the queen. So here, if just forget about the kings, because we will consider about the covering the pawn promoting only from the bishop. So if black plays a3, bishop cut a3, next move e3, bishop b4, e7, black can prevent pawn promoting. Okay, let's see what happens if the pawns are further advanced. If there is only last stop, black has to cover. Okay, we'll update the position as like this. Here, only one move to promote the queen. Here in this kind of positions, black has only, okay, here black has only one square to promote the queen. On the other hand, white has to block this two square. In this kind of questions, black simply play e3, bishop cut e3, then pawn will be promoted. So if bishop plays c3, the next move is e2. Both pawns are about to queening. So in the discarded pawns, bishop have to find a common diagonal by its own. Otherwise, bishop won't be able to block the pawns such as like previous positions. Okay, let's consider about the pawns versus king. In this kind of positions, I'll simply say invader. In this position is black cannot find a common diagonal for these two pawns. So if black remains f1 by playing here, white can. If white's bishop is trying to come f1 and remain there in order to block the pawns, he won't be able, because black can simply give a sacrifice to a one piece, one pawn and promote the queen. Okay, we saw several examples. So I am asking you to analyze following positions in the comment section, so you may able to practice the line. You can submit your answer by in the comment sections also with mentioning the position number. In this example, illustrate a more complicated case that includes the theme of one king shouldering of the other as well as harassing the defending bishop. In this example, illustrate a more complicated case that includes the theme of one king shouldering of the other as well as harassing the defending bishop. Here the common file for the both pawns is the long diagonal h1a diagonal. So black bishop have to reach the long diagonal by playing h5, and he can find any other move also, but he have to remain in this light square diagonal, otherwise he won't be able to block the pawns. Okay, let's see. White plays a4. As is usual in difficult endgame positions, move is crucial decision. So you have to analyze properly and do your calculations properly. Otherwise, you will lose a whole chance to get maximum you can get. Okay, in this position, first move is a4, because what white planning is when a bishop come into the long diagonal, he have to remain in diagonal, but white will have a chance to push the d5 and block the diagonal when the bishop is coming to this square. Okay, before do the continuation, we will see what will happen if black plays d5. d5, king f8, because king is coming to the big square of the a3 pawn. Okay, let's do the continuation. King f8, if a4, king e7, a5, king d7. In this scenario, white cannot move his king from the far away from the d5 pawn. The bishop can simply cut the d5 pawn, or else if the d5 push to d6, then he will be able to come to the light square long diagonal again by playing bishop h4, h5 and bishop f3. King d7, a6, king c8. Now white king have to give some support to the a pawn, otherwise he won't be able to promote the a pawn. But in the other hand, if he leaves the d5 pawn alone, bishop will be able to cut the d5, or else white can try by pushing the d6, then black will get a chance to come into the light square long diagonal and attack into the pawn promoting. Okay, that's why d5 is not a good move here. The answer is a4, bishop h5 as usual. Now king plays d6 in order to block the diagonal as well as block the reach in the king. King d6, king f8, a5, bishop comes c2. It's blocking from the beginning. Now d5 is okay, because if king comes there, black can go to the king f7 and push the pawn. We'll see bishop plays c4, king c5, threatening to the bishop, and bishop go to the f1 or bishop go to the f1. Then king played b6 in order to give a cover to the a6 square. Okay, black plays king e7, white plays king c7 because in the next move pawn can push d6 and give a threat, and pawn can simply queen without having any delay, because after playing d6 it's a check and getting a tempo, and next move white can simply push the d7 pawn. In order to prevent that, black has to cover the d7 square by playing bishop b5, but the thing is he is not in a situation to cover both d7 and a6 square. We'll see bishop b5, d6 check, king e6, now a6. Bishop have to take the a6, or even though if bishop plays f1 and trying to come to the lights for long diagonal, it's pointless because d7 pawn is free to promote. Hope you have enjoyed the positions. In the next lesson, we will talk about the knight and pawn versus knight endings. Thank you.